Hi, I'm Andrew Holzman of Family Tree Counseling Associates. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist with over 30 years experience. Mostly work with couples and individuals in terms of relationship and marital issues. And I would like to share this video with you. And my number, if you wish to call me, is 317-457-8668, or I can be reached at Holzman, Holzman, 2 at Comcast.net. And at Family Tree, we focus on helping individuals and couples work out issues that have perplexed them probably for many years. And at Family Tree, we're thinking often about the big picture, about your family and how your family of origin has influenced your relationship. Can be fragile, and relationships can be very much influenced by what we bring into those relationships. So we want to take the issues that you've brought into those relationships and explore them, and sometimes kind of work with those issues, and not always sometimes, but always share with you what's going on with those issues that you've brought in. So you may have issues about abandonment, you may have issues about shame, you may have issues about control. Everyone has certain issues that are striking points for them, that are issues that bring up strong feelings. So in this video, what I wanted to talk about was what happens when your partner expects you to read his or her mind. So tell me if this situation sounds familiar. You made a decision, you've decided to do something together, and you're in the midst of doing whatever you're doing. You're playing, you're going somewhere, you're choosing something to do, and your partner changes the pattern of what's supposed to happen, wants to do something different. And you're frustrated and you're angry and you're upset that all of a sudden things have changed and there's no explanation. Sometimes that happens because one partner in the relationship is uncomfortable being direct and is insecure with their decisions, and they want what they want. They want to be taken care of at times. They want to be known. They want to be understood. They want to be validated. They want their partner to see what they're saying without having to make that very scary choice of saying something directly. Because sometimes, even in relationships, even in long-term and pretty secure relationships, a person is bringing those issues of insecurity and of self-doubt into the relationship. And so if a person is insecure and they're uncomfortable making choices, even if they seem very secure and very competent in other places in their life, I mean, this seems to be a pretty common thing, that you have a person who can be a leader in their field. They can be a strong person. They seem to be very decisive. But in the relationship, that person may be uncomfortable being vulnerable and making those decisions. And vulnerability is definitely a big issue. If one thing people talk about pretty strongly that they're uncomfortable with, it is vulnerability. And vulnerability means being open and being secure in the knowledge that if you share what's going on with you to your partner, that they won't make fun of you, bring it up again, somehow use it against you. And so if you make a decision, you're vulnerable. If you make a decision, you're open to the possibility of that person teasing you, hurting you in some way, ignoring you in some way. So often that's part of the reason why people are indirect, because they're insecure and they're uncomfortable being vulnerable because of history in the relationship, possibly, or more likely, and also likely, history in their family of origin. If you grow up where your feelings are not validated, that what you say is not cared about or not understood or not even acknowledged. Families don't do it overly covertly. Sometimes they do it more covertly than overtly, sorry. So sometimes you're overtly hearing, boys don't cry or girls don't say that. And a lot of times it's covertly, where it's just not your family of origin's way of handling things, that feelings are not talked about, these things are just kept behind closed doors. You never see your parents argue. You never The feelings are never talked about. There's just expectations. You're very good at what you do. You're very strong at what you do. You're very competent. Often I see people who are captains and majors and generals of industry, or very good at their field, or professionals who are very good at what they do and promoted often, but in their relationships they're failing miserably, because relationships are a different set of rules. And so that comes back to this couple, any couple, where if you're communicating just factually and you're communicating intellectually and you're trying to fix things, you may be missing out on what the language is that your partner is talking to you. They may be talking emotionally, even if they don't know it. They may be talking about what they feel. They may be feeling lonely. They may be feeling cut off. They may be feeling abandoned. They may be feeling controlled. They may be feeling many things, but often they're not saying it directly. And you can't be expected to, no one can be expected to read a person's mind. They can't be expected to understand what the conversation is if the conversation is not happening. So you're left with this very confused feeling, which you may not be aware of, and that's the other aspect. So often a person who's indirect and feeling lonely might be with somebody who's pretty black and white, pretty counter-dependent, as we call it, the person who is strong-willed and just wants to fix things and wants to take care of things. And they're frustrated because they can't take care of their partner, because their partner is not giving them enough information, but they were also oblivious often to the signs. A lot of communication, of course, takes place non-verbally. Not that you're expected to know that, but they don't pick up on very much, and they don't hear even the direct communication of what the person wants, or they don't take into account who that person is and what they might want. So the indirect person might say, well, you know me. You know that this is what I like, or this is what I want to do, or this is, what I was waiting for and it didn't happen and we have to stay here longer, or we have to do this, or I'm not hearing you and I'm trying to figure out what you're saying. They're talking in ways that come through that because they're indirect, and the other person just doesn't get it. The other person is often oblivious to all this communication because they have their own family of origin issues. That may not be clear what I'm saying, but if you've been in a relationship for more than a little while, you realize that people don't get each other. They miscommunicate. They fight about little things. We all do that. We all fight about little things that seem to be just minor stuff that blows up into something else. And underneath that is the need for some kind of validation, the need for being understood, the need for being able to be there for the other person. I had a client say, he really loves his wife and really wants to be with her and doesn't want to be with anybody else. But it's very frustrating for him because he is unable to satisfy her in these ways when she is indirect, and it just brings up lots of frustration, and that's kind of frustration that he's not even aware of because he's uncomfortable or unknowledgeable in a lot of ways of dealing with his feelings. So he tries to fix it, and then the other person is his spouse. She is trying to get something across. She is trying to say, well, this is really what I want. I'm lonely, I'm not feeling like you're there for me, but she's not saying it directly. So the combination of indirectness and obliviousness to who the person is and what they feel, and the indirectness because of anxiety and self-doubt and fears, is a often explosive combination and leads to the couple spending hours, days, weeks fighting about something without getting to the heart of the matter. And the heart of the matter is, how do you talk about what you're feeling? So if you're getting indirect communication and you're being criticized for it or you're being attacked for it, then if you're trying to fix it, if you're trying to change it, if you're trying to help that person, it's a different kind of communication than they can hear, and it's falling on deaf ears. What you're trying to do is then talk this logical black and white language when really you should be talking about, ow, that's not okay with me to criticize me. That's not okay to talk to me in that way, to hurt me. And for the person who's feeling cut off and disconnected and invalidated, then they should be saying something hopefully about their feelings, about their loneliness or their abandonment, as opposed to projecting onto the other person their inability to help them and to fix it. And one person is seeing the other person is competent but is getting this needy little boy or girl, and it's confusing. And the other person wants that person to be there for them, and they're getting this oblivious rock, and it's frustrating. So you have this needy person and this frustrated person trying to get their point across, and no one's really hearing each other, which is, of course, a great recipe for disaster and a great recipe for bad feelings and continuous frustration on the part of the couple. So the solution, even though in some ways it's very simple, is to be able to pay attention to what you're going through, what you're feeling, how you're being treated, how you feel about how you're being treated as opposed to trying to fix it, how you feel about not getting that person to hear you, or not feeling cared about or validated, or how you feel about being criticized, or how you feel about being attacked, or how you feel about being ignored or abandoned. These are very important things to say, and usually not easy to say in the moment, but they might be easier to say a little later when things are calmed down. This is a long-term issue. Couples are going to miscommunicate. Couples are going to not hear each other in the way that they want to be heard. They are going to be frustrated. That is kind of a given in couplehood. So can you take the long-term view? And the long-term view is, I want to get across to my spouse that what I feel matters, that you must hear me about how I'm being treated, even if the person says to you, well, I have to yell at you for you to hear me, or I have to raise my voice, or I have to be critical for you to hear me. I don't think that can fly. I think that is after the person is being indirect and too quiet, and they go from quiet to explosive. So it's not a valid reason, and it's not okay to be criticized. It's not okay to be attacked. Conversely, it's not okay to be ignored. It's not okay to be not validated for what matters to you, or to be taken in after years and years of a relationship, to be understood what matters and what you care about. So it's important to get that across to your spouse as directly as possible, and what the feelings are when it's not being heard, when you're not being taken in and cared about. So both have validity, of course. It's not a black and white, right or wrong issue. It's more of, again, familial issues. What happened in your family of origin? Were you ignored? Were you expected to be the strong rescuer? Were you expected to be the caretaker? How are you seeing yourself? And is the way that you're seeing yourself not working for you in the relationship? It might be working for you in your job. It might be working for you with your friends. It's working for you in your life a good percentage of the time, but relationships are different. So if you can see that relationships are different and embrace the idea that your spouse is in your life to help you see that, which again is another concept that we try to get across at Family Tree, that your spouse is very important to you, that your partner is very important to you. And if you embrace the idea that they're going to be important to you for lots of reasons, and one of those reasons is to get you to pay attention to some muscles that you haven't used, those emotional muscles, or those muscles that anxiety has dumbed down, and you're self-doubting yourself, and you're not able to be direct, or you're not able to be strong, then you have a chance to change things. That you are forced into this situation when your partner is not validating you or they are criticizing you to do something different. If you can do something different, if you can change the scenario from your family of origin expectations or subtle ways that they handled feelings, then the relationship can be very powerful. It can be very safe and can be very trusting and very good for you because you are doing something that the relationship is forcing you, quote unquote, forcing you to do, which is to grow. And growth is the whole point of this. The growth is the point of any type of recovery, any type of helpful, hopeful relationship. So thank you for listening. My name is Andrew Holzman, 317-457-8668, aholzman2 at comcast.net is my email address. Please listen to all the family tree videos. We have lots of great information. And if you wish to give us a call, do so. If you wish to write us, do so. Thank you again. Bye-bye.